and welcome to another episode of Billy Watson TV. Today I have the great pleasure of introducing a former guest of the show. He was a member of Lone Star Uriah Heep in Gary Moore's band, but now makes his music under his own name. Welcome back to the show, John Sloman. It's great to have you here.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Billy Watson TV. It gives me great pleasure to have a returning guest on. His name is John Sloman. He has been a member of Uriah Heep, Lone Star and Gary Moore's band and even UFO for a short period in the studio, I believe. And we've had a chat before. We're going to get him back on to have a wee chat. And welcome back to the show, John.
Thanks, Billy. It's good to be here again.
So, just to explain, if you've been trying to watch this somewhere else, I've had some technical issues, but basically I've had to change the software I'm using, and if John disappears, that's the reason why I changed the other one, but he couldn't sign on to that. But if he disappears, hopefully he'll sign back in and we'll get him back on. But anyway, John, it's been about a month since I've talked to you.
Yeah.
I see you were down in London at the weekend there.
Yeah, I did.
You're living in London, you attended the anti-geoengineering rally.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Really, I obviously it's one of the most important things occurring at the moment, you know. And I wanted to see just how many people felt the same way as Matt Landman did for a start, and the same way as people like myself did. So, like with the COVID thing, I thought, well, I'm going to go up and see how many people are there on the day. And it was really interesting because there was a good turnout, by the way, you know, as I'm sure you've read and watched maybe videos about that. There was probably about 1,000, I would say, at Marble Arch, which is great, you know, it's fantastic. However,
yeah,
you know,
I was
but it was
with Matt Landman in the first one.
Ah,
it was reasonably
right.
well attended, but there's a group in Edinburgh, Scotland, anti-geoengineering, and unfortunately, I mean, they've got great efforts, but most of the time there's not a great turnout, and the public are passing by, and
Yeah,
the lack of numbers can actually put people off, because I think it's just a small group of nutters, you know.
that's exactly right. Yeah, I'm used to being thought of as a nutter, so you know, but yeah, that is true. There were people filing through because when I first got there, at first I thought, oh, is this everybody? And then suddenly I saw people filing in from what would have been, I guess, the end of Oxford Street and a Marble Arch end of Oxford Street. And I thought, as I saw them, I thought, oh, this is great. You know, these are like the latecomers to a gig, you know, here they come. And they just kept walking right through. And they were using it as like a public footpath, which of course is what it is anyway. But it was fantastic, you know, it was really fantastic to be there. And, you know, Matt Landman is a great guy. And Sonia Poulton as well was great. And some guys provided some music as well, which was really stirring stuff.
Yeah, I've had them on my show. It was Daz in the Daz Light Band, and Phil Zimmerman is a comedian, actor, and he does some stuff as well.
Yeah. Is that the guy that did the Lines in the Sky thing?
Yeah, he's a bit zany.
Yeah, that's get out with the government. It was like this kind of, you know, almost like a medieval kind of thing. And but it was what was strange about the not that part of it, but I got the train up to town on Saturday, and I got off at Charing Cross, and I already knew that there was this march for, you know, Palestine and all that stuff. So I was expecting to see that. But as soon as I got off the train, there it was. You know, it was just thousands of people. It was just, I've no idea how many attended. But there they were, you know, they just filed past for probably a mile of people. And you know, there were marshals at the front. I remember that, in high-vis jackets, they're marshalling them down past Trafalgar Square and then turning left down into Whitehall. And so at that point, I thought, well, that's all good, you know. Let's hope that there's going to be an equally, maybe not as many for the geoengineering, but that at least it'll be, you know, maybe comparable. But it kind of, it just is a perfect representation, really, of how those issues are viewed, I think, in the public consciousness, you know, that everyone is quite rightly aware of what's going on in what used to be called the Holy Land. I guess some people still call it the Holy Land for some reason, but then you get there and you see just maybe 1,000 people, and suddenly you think, well, wait a minute, you know, our own governments are doing this to us. And I appreciate that our own governments are doing it to us via their proxy wars, you know, in foreign countries. We all know that stuff's happening. It comes back on us in the end in some way. But I just found that if only those people could have been, you know, those people at the front could have said, hey, guys, when you're done here, come up to Marble Arch, and maybe we can organize a bigger march over the geoengineering thing, because this is what governments are doing to every one of us, you know, white, black, whatever creed, color you are, they're doing it to us. It's a war against us all, and it's got nothing to do with politics. It's just pure, or religion for that matter, is just pure control, obviously. Maybe the only religion can possibly be Satanism, you know, behind it. But it was great. I was glad I was there. It was really fantastic to see.
Yeah, I did see you made a post about that, and I find that as well, you know. Obviously, you know, we get told in the news what they want us to be focusing on and stuff like that, and in some ways, this Palestine thing doesn't need stirred up, but, you know, it kind of gets highlighted. And yeah, it's a bad thing, but sometimes I think we should take these issues closer to home and look at what's actually happening on our own doorstep, and you know, question that.
I agree.
More, you know.
Well, you know what? I think that governments might be quite happy with tens, even hundreds of thousands of people taken to the streets over a war that's happening way over there between two countries that have very little to do with this country, other than I appreciate people have moved from those countries to here. Really, it is about what's happening to us right now. You know, maybe not in the sky today, but it has been. It's been rife. You know, here in London, in Wales too, where I'm from. One day,
You were a conspiracy theorist if you talked about this like 2 months ago, but since then they've let it go.
Yeah,
you know,
isn't that strange, huh?
Yeah.
The government has turned conspiracy theorists. All the public now should start trolling the government, you know. So what are you talking about? That doesn't exist. What are you on about?
You can't be blocking the sun. That's madness. Why would you want to block the sun? Yeah, but again, I just find the general public, the normies, whatever you want to call them, you know, just the lack of interest in the world around them and, you know, reality outside of, you know, what they're getting told on the TV is staggering. Just because they're focused on football or fucking whatever shit, you know, and those meaningless things.
I agree. I stopped watching sport, and I loved watching football growing up and tennis, and I like playing and what have you. But I don't watch any of that now, and it is primarily because of what happened during COVID. Or whatever that.
Agenda behind it. First of all these things, there's an agenda. I even think, you know, when they started bringing in the foreign players and stuff like that, that was almost a prerequisite.
Oh, it totally was. You know, Of course, it was the thin end of the wedge, you know, and it's only in hindsight that you can look back and say, right. That's what that was for, you know. But back to that thing where you were saying about the public, the whole thing with the marches and what have you. I think there was about 1 million people that took to the streets before the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And it still went ahead, And I think the government, they're okay. Any government, I think, are okay with that. I think they'll almost encourage it, because you now realize that, oh, right, they want chaos. I didn't think they wanted chaos years, 20 years, maybe 10 years ago even. I thought, no, they don't want chaos, surely. Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. They want us fighting on the streets,
Well,
so
that's the digital prison that they're building.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on. I want their business to do well.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's all in place, and it seems to be that they're putting stuff right in front of you just to get you triggered. It's like intentionally gaslighting.
It really is.
The pot. And
yeah.
I'm probably quite surprised at how little people have been kind of outspoken and fighting back. There's like, fucking hell, when they're going to kick off, because we want to fund the police more, we want to fund digital surveillance, we want to make money off it again, because the police are not there as the good guys wanting everything, the bad guys caught. They're a business, and I can't believe policemen join the police and don't see through that bullshit and say, what the fuck am I doing serving the elites rather than the public I'm supposed to be protecting,
Well, I did Tai Chi for the best part of 20 years, and one of the guys that came to the class for a few years, he was a police officer, and he was about my age. Actually, no, he must have been younger, come to think of it. And but he was a nice guy. I got on really, really well with him. But he said he'd done lots of. He'd been on the front line when there was like riots and stuff. He was all dressed up in the riot gear. And he said, "But yeah, hey, when the big one kicks off, I'm going to be on the side of the. I'm going to be on the side of the people." I remember him saying that to me, And now I don't know whether he was just saying that to me because we were training together. I don't know, but I do remember that, and so maybe there's the odd, there's a few guys, there must be, that just thinks, what the hell am I doing, like during the whole thing in 2020 and 21, and I went up to three of those events. And there was the anti-terrorist police, or whatever they were called, great big trucks, black, full of terrorist police, whatever, anti-riot police and what have you. And there was nothing like that happening, on those events. The first one up in Trafalgar Square, and the second one. There was nothing remotely like that. I may have mentioned in our first talk, I can't remember, but at one point in the first event at Trafalgar Square, they were like, they said there was about 30,000 people in Trafalgar Square, and I'm sure it was around that. But the people parted, suddenly, and this elderly lady came walking through the crowd from the back of Trafalgar Square with a walking frame. And it was just these were the kind of people really, that ended up saying, no, enough, we're not doing this. Whereas, of course, they make out that it's just a bunch of kind of, I don't know, bunch of hippies or something.
Yeah, but sometimes they've got all this new gear, and it's almost like they're displaying it. They're using these things like, look what we've got.
Yeah.
You've got the power to crush it, and obviously that gets built up more and more. Like, remember there was a thing about British policemen should never have guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
They're walking around with these weapons and like all this body armor on and fucking all this technology.
It's true. And we don't have any of that. It's not as if they have to have guns in order to combat all of us crazy people who are walking around with our own arms, sidearms and whatever. I'm sure there are criminals in this country with guns, but yeah, it is ridiculous. And they like to flaunt what they got, obviously. Although, all the stuff that's currently going on in, between Israel and Iran and all that stuff, and Trump, what was it, bombing the nuclear factory or whatever the hell. That's one thing I don't think you should do, is bomb a nuclear factory or whatever. But it's just the fact that for all the supposed technology that we hear about, that the remote viewers, oh yeah, what we'll do voice to skull, and we'll tell the public just to surrender, and overthrow their government just by speaking to them telepathically or whatever. In the end, all they got is fucking bombs. Boom, that's all they're doing. And it's quite pathetic when you think about it. It's exactly the same shit as they were doing three decades ago. Boom. Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I've looked into this about this thing about nuclear weapons, because I actually don't believe such a thing exists, a nuclear bomb. I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and kind of using it. We have to stop Iran having a nuclear threat, and it's just an excuse.
I had the similar conversation.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm reading a really good book at the moment, and it really is. It's talking about all that, about the fact that this guy who's he's got a PhD, and he just says, no, the quantum world is just bullshit.
Yeah,
and it has no application in the real world.
It's not Stephen Young's book, is it?
Yes.
All right, yeah. It's a friend of mine. I've interviewed him a couple of times, and I've read the book.
Yeah. It's great. I'm loving it.
Yeah, what was it? Wisdom. A Fool's Wisdom.
A Fool's Wisdom, that's it, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a signed book of that, and I've also got a signed book of your book as well.
Yeah.
Give that a quick plug. That's going to go on holiday with me to Turkey in a couple of months, so I'm looking forward to that.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Bill. Yeah.
So it's an interesting book, and I totally agree with that. I learned that years ago. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he goes into that. There's a couple of YouTube videos before YouTube was heavily censored. They might be off of it now, but certainly, they've got these videos, haven't they, of like, oh, there's the nuclear bomb going off, but the camera survives okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, they want to make the world out of what those cameras are made out of. Fair play. Then no one would worry about nuclear bombs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just, to me, a lot of it is like almost like biblical scripture or something they're enacting, and a lot of this stuff is like Kabbalah. There's like there's a guy called CJB, Christopher John Biertness, CJB Books, and he talks about how like Donald Trump is playing the role of King Herod, and fucking Putin's playing this role, and it's almost theatre they're giving us. I'm not saying there's not bombs going off, but there's a narrative and something that they're playing out with all this bullshit, and it's all probably leading to everyone's destruction at the end of the day somehow. It's not a good thing, but what gets me is like everyone talks about, Trump's doing this or Netanyahu's doing that. There's forces behind these people, you know what I mean?
Of course it is.
We always bring it to that just first level, because that's what you're told all the time. And when Trump got back in and blah blah, it's just like, no, who's controlling those guys? And why do we keep getting up every day and funding with our taxes and our sweat equity? And can we not talk about stepping away from the system instead of fighting it all the time? But I don't think that's ever going to happen. People are just too ingrained in the rat race and the wheel that everyone seems to be on, and it's hard to.
Yeah. So, it seems to be a combination of two movies, The Matrix and what's the other one? They Live,
Yeah.
And it seems to be that kind of thing where I do actually, of late, I think they are non-human. the people at the top. I truly do. I don't see and I'm not trying to get humans off the hook here. I know there are some incredibly evil humans out there, but it just seems, all of it seems just anti-human. And in the end, you kind of want to go, yeah, and, it's anti-human because maybe they're not human,
Yeah,
and I don't see.
When I look at Keir Starmer or certain people like that, it gives me a deeply uneasy feeling,
Yeah, that's right.
Right there, you know what I mean? It's just like,
I agree.
I don't know if you've heard of Donald Marshall. I think we touched about him last time. He talks about the Vril Society and Black Eye Club. I don't know if that's their way to get people possessed, or like there's these demonic entities and they do these rituals to them and they sacrifice children, or somehow these people seems to be possessed by these entities or whatever. And I don't know what the fuck's going on in their head, because we could have a loving world if we all put our mind to it. Well, it could be a great place to be,
Yeah, well, absolutely it could. It's just that, every one of them that you see, without getting into, what's this phrase that people use now, body shaming or whatever the hell it is, but they're a funny looking lot. Every one of them. They are one wacky, not one of them can wear a business suit. Donald Trump, $3,000 is probably on a suit. It hangs off him like someone's draped a fucking flag around him. It's ridiculous. And Boris Johnson, he looks like a tramp in court in his suit, It's ridiculous. And it's almost like they don't know how to, Rishi Sunak, he was another one. It's like a before and after, isn't it? One of those slimming things where Rishi Sunak, when he overdid it on the Slim Fast, and so there he is in his skinny suit. But not only are they skinny pants he's got on, they're too short. And you see him walking down the street in Downing Street, and none of them know how to walk. They don't know how to walk. It's almost like they haven't studied humans enough. They know our psychology, right, inside out. They know everything about us. Yeah, if we do this, they'll do, but they can't fucking walk in a business suit. Not one of them, And that shit they do when they take their jacket off when the weather's hot and they roll their sleeves up, that one, they need slapping for that. Hey, I'll loosen the tie. Ooh, you're a statesman now. I think Blair started that bullshit. Fucking annoying.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying.
Sorry.
He tried to be more a man of the people because he played in a band or something like that. Look at me, I'm a cool guy.
Sure he did. Yeah. He played in the toilet, I think.
Britpop and Noel Gallagher fucking sucking up to him and all that.
Well, hey, if last time we were talking about punk, how, that didn't come from the street. And that whole Britpop thing, and they were all acting like tough guys. And then suddenly Labour gets in and you see them all sucking up to Tony Blair. That got old, didn't it? Pretty quick, I'm sure.
Definitely, it's vomit inducing. And now even the whole Oasis thing, like people paying ridiculous prices to go and see these albums. They made me fucking highly annoyed back in the day because all the press coverage they got, and like our rock stars and whatever, they're supposed to be cool with a brain and have something to say. As you were saying, you thought the music industry would move things forward and be at the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Coming in and like fucking hailed as the greatest thing ever since the fake Beatles or whatever, but it's just like, it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Well, when all that started with Oasis, and I thought, God, hang on, why are they doing this? And of course, then you go, hold on a minute, Labour's in, the whole Fabian thing, and they're trying to recreate that new Labour nonsense from the 90s. Hey, we'll have Blur versus Oasis again, and fun times, and there'll be ladettes and all that nonsense, and the world will be great.
Yeah. I was just going to mention that's when the women's drinking 8 pints started happening, and I know, women should hold themselves to a higher standard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, really, and I mean, thank Christ, I'm at the other end of that whole playing field now. But I do feel for guys in their 20s and 30s, if it's believed, it's like as if 20 and 30-year-old guys are kind of being a bit standoffish with women. I don't know whether that's true because I'm nowhere near it, like I was saying, But it is. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case because of how women have been screwed with, really, psychologically, And I say this as someone who has a lot of respect for women. But, I come from a family, lots of strong women and all that stuff. They didn't need the bloody government or the Tavistock Institute to tell them, you've got to be a strong woman, all that nonsense. But, I wouldn't be surprised if guys are being a little bit kind of cautious now, throwing their hats in the room first before they walk in,
I think so, quite rightly so as well.
Yeah, really.
I think porn as well has had a big influence on the generations as well, Just men growing up with this, fake ideal of women, and I don't know, it just seems to be like relationships and that isn't encouraged. The idea of starting a family, I mean,
yeah,
kind of died. I don't know if we're coming to the end of an age, and this is one way to put people off children. There seems to be intent on killing off the population. Again, with this assisted dying bill coming out a couple of days ago, it's like every way possibly they can, transhumanism or LGBT or whatever. There's all these ways to stop the nuclear family and an agenda.
Well, the common theme, isn't it, is less humans. That's really you could put that on the top of the blackboard or whiteboard and just say, well, there you go. Let's see how many of these agendas link to that,
Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, I just watched my stepdad die last week because he took the vaccine. And the hospital, well, he had like 2 years of, first, well, he got Bell's palsy when he got it, and then he had another booster. Then he gets told cancer, then they experimented on him, cut him to bits, give him chemotherapy, done this to him, done that to him, and then he gets told, oh, it's now in your head, there's nothing we can do about you, we're putting you on a do not resuscitate, and you've got X amount of weeks left to live kind of thing. And then they provided all this kind of, well, he got taken home and put in a bed in the house and nurses were visiting, so palliative care or whatever it is. So he's still thinking the NHS are great. But and then the sad thing was, right, he wanted to donate his body to the fucking medical world. It's a long story why he done that. But anyway, it's like they even got that at the end. And then they said they wanted to experiment for a couple of days. My mum was laughing. It was actually funny, right? It was a little bit funny. I mean, he was on his deathbed, and me and my mum were chatting. I was telling her, about the vaccines and how, that's probably what caused it. And then that was the time he decided to check out because he probably didn't want to hear me fucking. So then he took his body.
Fuck this, I'm out of here.
Basically, the doctor says we want to find out why he died. And Mum says wanted to check for viruses. And I was like, fucking. She laughed because she knew I didn't believe in them. I was like, aye, right, aye. And I said, I'll tell you exactly why he died. And she by this time knows, what caused it, what started it all. But it's just, he was a guy who would take orders from the government. He was in the army, whatever. Just these people know best. Trust the science, etc. There's too many of them. All these guys, they're bound to know the truth, and you're just a nobody who kens fuck all, basically. And then I see the consequences play out, And
that's terrible.
I didn't say to any of the nurses that because I have respect for him or whatever, but I wanted to, and it was fucking infuriating when you know the bullshit that's going on there right in front of your face and how.
Oh, absolutely. Oh God, I mean the dancing nurses. When I saw that stuff, with the dancing nurses like that during the whole thing, and when I first saw it, I was saying to my brother, I said, because I'm a little bit cautious about leaping in straight away when you because you're kind of thinking, are we being set up here? Is this a real thing? And then it just went on and on, didn't it? They would be on rooftops, in car parks, in hospital car parks, wherever. But that did something to my mind when I was watching those things. I can't quite explain it. It's a bit like you were saying earlier about when you see people like Keir Starmer, where they make you go, what? You know, you're a bit like a dog, you know, like Bill Hicks used to say, like a dog being shown a card trick. You know, it's like, what the hell am I looking at here? You know, I couldn't. I beg your pardon?
It's pure insanity. I mean, there's a pandemic eventually going on and fucking got dancing nurses.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You think, what's the one thing that you shouldn't do? I mean, I was doing little tunes in my living room here, because that's what a lot of musicians ended up doing to stop themselves, frankly, from losing their minds. But these were supposedly people on the front line and all this stuff, you know, and there's people dying, and yeah, it was. That was pretty sick, and my mother ended up in hospital actually during lockdown, and she was at the age where she was falling and all that stuff. And one time I went in to visit her, and I walked in, and I think I had a mask with me, because obviously you've got to go along with the stuff. There's your mother down there, you know, in a bed. You know, you don't want to piss off the staff because they might take it out on your mother when you're not there. So I'm walking in, I'm walking in anyway, and I'm being very passive, and so I've come to visit, my mum, Mrs. Sloman. Oh yeah, she's down, and the nurse was about to take me down to see my mother, and it must have been like one of these kind of senior nurses. She walks up anyway. She sees me and she says to the nurse, "Hey, get him," like as if I'm not there in the room. "Get him a mask and an apron now." You know, a mask and an apron. You know, like what am I doing? Doing the fucking dishes for you? Am I? An apron, you know, is it Masonic enough yet for you? You know, yeah. Shall I roll up one trouser leg, you know, while I'm visiting my mother? So I was burning, you know, couldn't say anything. All I could do was post on Facebook, and which is, in the end, does that do anything? Probably not. But it stops you from having a heart attack, you know. Yeah. That's the thing, because when you just know. You know, like this shit now that's going on with, you know, Iran and all that stuff. Oh my God.
Well, I had to do that's when I started my shooting a shit show, because I had to get it out me somehow. So then 300 episodes of me ranting my fucking brains out overnight. It was bullshit.
Yeah. Well, lockdown. My dad used to shout at the telly. You know, he was like, he was pretty switched on politically. But I shout at the telly when it's not even on.
All right, I just don't come on.
That's how much I hate the telly. You know,
I watch stuff on. I've got a monitor or whatever, and watch stuff through the internet. But there's no way to ever put on the normal news or whatever. You know what I mean? During the lockdown, you said lots of musicians were making music. There's this CD I got. It's called Lockdown by Gaz Brookfield, and he made this album about kind of the lockdown. There's some really good tracks on it, and I contacted him to ask, you know, if he could come on the show, and he says, well, that's his worst album we ever made, and it was a really dark time, and he wants to forget about it. I was a little bit disappointed, because I don't know, it sounds like maybe somebody says, you know, I don't know, didn't visit that again, you know, it wasn't the right thing for your career or whatever, but that's what he done during the lockdown, as you said, because what else are you going to do? So anyone who wants to check out, you can get the songs on YouTube.
Okay. Well, I think I think there's definitely been a case of amnesia. You know, there was mass. Who was the guy? Matthias Desmet. There was mass hypnosis was going on, and I think then after the whole thing finished. I think they just maybe brought, you know, you're back in the room, so to speak, and people were unaware that they'd been running around the stage like a chicken 10 minutes before, you know?
That's an analogy, that, yeah.
And so nobody that I know talks about it. Nobody ever mentions it.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I just can't.
It's really incredible. Especially when people are dying as well. That's especially, they don't say anything about it.
Yeah.
But it is definitely, if that doesn't prove Matthias Desmet's whole thesis, that there was some kind of mass hypnosis going on.
It's UB40 were playing in my local town, and I know, well, I've spoke to a guy, it's a strange one, but anyway, this guy, Matt Hoy, he used to be in the band.
Yeah, I know of him.
Right, so he basically got sacked by Ali Campbell, and the guy who at work had seen him says, "Oh, Ali Campbell was fantastic." I says, "Oh, this other guy's got a different opinion of him. He got sacked by him." So he's like, "Oh, you would say that if you got sacked by somebody." So 5 minutes later, I couldn't let it lie. He says, he got the sack because he never took the COVID vax." And the guy went, and he couldn't have anything to say about it, because what are you going to say? It's basically not very good, is it? And then somebody in the band 2 months later who did take the vaccine died from whatever reason. His heart stopping. And
when you're talking about people dying. I mean, I know people. I knew people who died in recent times, and out of respect for the person and their family, I haven't said anything about it. And there's only one person, a friend of mine, whose wife sadly died, and right from the off, he said, "Hey, it was the vaccine."
Yeah.
And they discussed it even before she died. So, but I know several other instances of people that were diagnosed with cancer one day and they were dead within a month.
Somebody said on social media, I seen this morning, turbo cancer wasn't a thing before 2020.
It's funny that, isn't it? It's like a new model. Oh no, this is the turbo one. Oh, right, yeah. It's with a spoiler on the back. Yeah, it's great. Like as if cancer needs turbocharging,
Yeah. Plus, if you understand what cancer is as well, a lot of it is storing toxins, and a lot of times these doctors do a biopsy, and that's what splits the seal. And then that's where the cancer spreads because they're doing the biopsy to find out if it's a cancer or not, kind of thing. So
that rings true, doesn't it? That does ring true. And wasn't there an Italian doctor? Was it Simoncini? His surname was, and wasn't he was treating things, with is it bicarbonate of soda or something? Crazy like that, and I think they dealt with him anyway,
Yeah, they say that in hemp because it's alkaline, and cancer's an acidic body, so to neutralise the body, the pH. That's part of the one thing. But a lot of people are doing it through, I don't know, like meditation and changing your mindset as well as changing your diet, and then basically you're getting rid of the emotional trauma that maybe caused it. But again, with these injections, it's probably going beyond that. It's just pure toxicity they've pumped into you, and it's manufacturing itself in your body. But who knows?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think we all overdosed on what could be in the vaccines, or the jabs, of whatever type company that you got them from,
Well, it was all made by the military, and these companies were almost like the salespeople, just to give you the illusion they were coming from different places. But basically, the batches were created in 2019 anyway. So that's another part of the agenda. And there was a nurse in Romania or somewhere. She says, "Look, we've got these code numbers on them because they were all given individually, and it's almost like they chose the people. They're getting saline and they're getting this one, and the politician batch is like all 000. They're getting. Oh, look at me! I'm taking it."
Mike Eden did a lot of stuff about that, didn't he? The guy that was research and development guy for Pfizer.
Yeah. He had a slow awakening to the point where he realised that the virus model is bullshit as well. It took him a while to get
Incredible.
There. He got there.
What? Yeah, true. But they're the guys really that the world needs, I think, because they have the scientific knowledge as well, to kind of take on the establishment,
Yeah. I was going to mention to you just before we get you playing a couple of tunes that you see me, I was doing a gig a couple of weeks ago. Basically, there was this place where Stan Laurel done his.
Yeah, I saw the photo.
So I entered this competition. I'm kind of ostracised from the whole comedy world, and I just decided instead of doing a stand-up routine, I was going to recite a poem, just because I wanted to perform there one time and not qualify, because basically, yeah, I want as little to do with that scene as possible. But when I was there, some of the comments, like there's these judges on the stage, so they're commented after every act, and they were saying things like, "Oh, I hate political comedy," and "Oh, things comedians we used to be able to talk about stuff, but we can't talk about these things these days," and stuff like that. It just made me think, "Oh, fucking hell!" Again, they're totally playing into the whole thing. They're letting them win. We're censoring ourselves, and then there's a couple of other comedians who knew me and they knew I was coming, and one of them was like, "Oh, I don't believe COVID was a hoax," and this is part of his thing. Like, one part of me wanted to just ditch what I was going to do and start talking about, what I was talking about in the speakeasy gigs or something like that. But I just decided not to cause any controversy, not to upset their night. But it's tempting, but it just shows you, the self-censorship that goes on in these things is fucking annoying as well. And the audiences don't want to hear. It's like everybody gets triggered by realness these days, and they've almost got to do it online. I went to an open mic last night, and there's like, I've got all this stuff bursting inside me that I want to talk about and get out. I just wanted to go on a rant. But then when it came time, it's like, do people there want to hear it? Am I going to go there and be the one that fucking brings the night down by trying to talk about it? You know what I mean? So
It's almost like you have to go up. It's like that. Ant Middleton, the special forces guy that was. I think he's got into politics now, but he was one of the guys on that SAS TV show a couple of years ago. And anyway, he was talking about something in their training that they did, the SAS guys, where they go out with a big pack and they have to do this massive hike, and then they come back and instead of the director or whatever it is that's putting them through this course, saying, "There you go, son. Yeah, well done. You finished the course." They'd send them round again, and just when they thought they could take their pack off, the director would say, "Okay, off you go," and again, and they called out the sickener. That's what Ant Middleton was saying. We called out the sickener, and it's almost like that's what you're doing, and I understand that, because I think that's where I am as well right now. It's almost as if you have to go. It's like there's a term in music, DC Alfina, back to the beginning, only different. And I think that's maybe what's happening, where you're thinking, hang on, haven't we done this stage? Where everyone gets very knowing about the world, and we can work, we can build on this. Everyone's pretending that hasn't happened. The last 50, 60 years, starting with Lenny Bruce and people like that. I went through George Carlin and Bill Hicks, on Billy Connolly and all those amazing people. Instead, let's forget all that now and start all over again. And I feel like it's the same with music. I feel it's exactly the same scenario. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, shouldn't we be building on what's gone before? No, you got to go back to the beginning. So here I am in my bloody living room, where we start. We start in our living room, in our bedroom, and we end up back there at the beginning.
Yeah, there's a festival on in England. I've got a wee spot on in close to Derby. It's quite a bit of a hike, and I'm going to have to spend quite a lot of money to get down there. But I'm thinking about. I mean, I have been booked in. It's not on a poster yet. I was thinking about not going because it's an expense to me. But it's like basically one of the only places that I can do what I want to do, and that's how far I get to go for these special events. You know what I mean? Like the gathering the other day at the Anti-Geoengineering, it was safe to talk about these things because we're all gathering there. Then there's maybe another one in 2 months or another one over here. But as far as talking about these things in the general populace, it's almost like they've created two separate realities.
Well, they have.
And the other.
Yeah, and that's damaging right there, because that's where I live now. I don't I love my family. They're fantastic people. But it's really, I've got to be careful. I have to choose what I talk about and how I discuss it.
Yeah.
Because I'm the eldest. I was the eldest of 6 kids, so my job was not to piss people off. Yeah, and so that's how I'm wired up. I'm on about really generally. I just leave me alone. I just want to be creative. It's only the fact that the world has been changed under me, like the rug has been pulled, that has made me want to speak out a bit more. And I, the whole thing in 2020 made me realize that, oh my God, a lot of the people that I thought were switched on, they're not switched on at all.
Yeah.
It was a shock. And that's nothing to do with me kind of, hey, I really figured shit out. It's a terrifying place to be because there's no one you can talk to.
It's like all the punk people, you'd have thought all those fans would be totally on it, but it's actually, no, they're just on board with the government agenda as well. It's like, that was supposed to be anti-establishment or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, really, it's like to use to use some silly football analogy, Alex Ferguson, say, had Roy Keane and guys like that, to stick the boot in they were great players. But I mean, guys who really got physical. And the manager could obviously his eyes would go up in his head and go, oh, yeah, I know he likes to get stuck in, doesn't he? But really, it's exactly what the manager wanted him to be doing. That's his son, get in there, win that ball. And I feel that that's how governments are about all these kind of so-called crazy people, like be it punks or whatever. I mean, punk is old hat, I know, but I just mean any of these kind of disparate sort of groups that are, so-called troublemakers. They just use them, to create chaos. That's all they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, again, there was a kind of element of punk before the Sex Pistols came along, and then they got put on that Bill Grundy show and then kind of encouraged to cause a thing. Then it became mainstream. Then everyone looks the same and they get, put in basically a label. And again, it becomes the market revolution back to you. Like even the hippie thing was, created, but it gets sold back to you in tie-dye T-shirts. It becomes an industry. And nothing to do with an actual real movement. Even, I think I talked to you before, I think I sent you the article about Bob Dylan, who has infiltrated the whole folk scene. It could have been a serious, outspoken thing for revolution, but he took it, God on your side or whatever, and then led them down the surrealist path and stuff like that, and just, put it astray from what it was intended to be.
Yeah.
So that's what they do, they infiltrate and then lead it in another direction,
Yeah. Well, in the end, and like I'm sure I said it in our earlier thing, that in the end, it's just business, it turns out, and, all those kind of dreams that you had when you were a kid, like say when you thought, yeah, I'd love to do stand-up, watching somebody making a difference in the world, really inspiring you. And that's how it was for me. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you realize eventually you have to admit to yourself that, damn, it's business. And I don't like business has to exist. I realize trade and all the rest of it, but I don't like business people. Yeah. Sorry, any business people watching this, I just don't. I don't like dealing with you at all. And a lot of the musicians as well that I knew, they turned out to be business people. A lot of my hero musicians, they turned out to be business people. Very brilliant musicians, but business people.
Yeah.
And so I've come to a place of acceptance, I think, where, hey, I'm not a businessman. And I now realize it's not a bad thing not to be a businessman. I don't care, about any of that. And but I do realize that business has to happen,
Yeah,
for,
but you do
for the,
things like
for the,
great albums like this and other things that come from inside you, and it's got that passion, and you're using your talents to create art to inspire others, and that's
it's
supposed to be that's the point of it, is to
it's about emotion in the end, I think, and human emotion, and whether it's the guy, writing a really kind of a emotive song, or you know, or even someone who's getting in the ring and fighting. It's about human emotion, really, expressing emotion, and sporting passion and all that. Bill Hicks doing his play from your fucking heart. That was one of the best things I ever saw. I just thought that was. I was actually, yeah, I was even a little bit embarrassed for him, because I just thought, wow, he's really completely going for it. When he went down like this, play from your fucking heart, and then he gets down on his haunches, and that was the best thing he ever did. That set, that like 25, 30-minute set was fantastic. When he drops the cigarettes, when he's going to light the cigarette and it falls out of his hand and he catches it, and then he throws it up into his mouth and it lands in his mouth, the tip side. And the crowd must have thought he's been practicing that in his hotel room. And he's got the lighter, he just goes, I doubt it. And then lights a cigarette. You just go, fucking hell, Bill. Fantastic. So that's, to me, that's what inspired me.
It inspired me too. I used to
back
do
in
comedy like that as well. I used to go full pelt, and give them it all, and play from your heart. I remember that's what what I was trying to do. But sometimes you feel like you're almost being, by doing that, it's almost like the promoter doesn't like it because you're showing the other acts up almost. Though I couldn't do the same 5 minutes. I take 5.
Yeah.
And you do that for fucking a year.
Yeah.
And then you get up to 7, you do that for another year, then you might get up to 15, the same 15 you built up over 3 years. I was wanting to experiment and fucking play from your heart and speak, like almost like a channel for what's coming through you.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. That's exactly where it's at. And it doesn't matter if you've got material prepared. Like you could have written the song 10 years ago and performed it 200 times, but then one time you get the bit between your teeth because this is the right place. You should have played it all along, and you end up really like some great live album maybe in the past where you go, wow, when they did that song that time, that was magical. I don't know why. It wasn't just because it was recorded, it just happened to be recorded. It was bootlegged, but the way they played it that moment is something. So something special must happen within people. We're getting back to, the alchemy thing, the human alchemy thing. But yeah, you can play the same thing. You can do the same set, the same material on 3 different nights, and it'll be different every time. And then you get that one time, isn't it, where you go, damn, what did I do? That, and people are saying, that was fucking amazing. What did you do? And you're going, I don't know. All I know is it felt different when I did it,
Yeah, it used to confuse me when I first started comedy because I do exactly the same set. When I told you do a type 5, do a type 5. So right, I do it one night and it go well, and you try it another night and like die in your ass. Like, what the fuck happened there? But
yeah, exactly, and it happens to everybody. But it's definitely something to do with fear, without a doubt. And when my brother Lawrence died suddenly this is going back in 1999, and I think I may have touched on it before, but the whole family were completely obliterated. He was 33, he died and we were all in shock, and it took weeks and weeks and weeks for us to find out what had happened. I thought he'd been murdered. So it was a very dark period, and by the time that his funeral came around, it was 3 or 4 weeks. He'd been gone 3 or 4 weeks, but we were still all completely nowhere. And I was going to do the eulogy thing, and I was bloody terrified, because I said, yeah, I'll definitely do something. I was writing all this stuff about him, and on the day, I do remember I didn't actually commit to it. I told the priest the night before. I said, "Can I give you a nod if I'm going to do it or not on the day? Because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. Because I thought if I lose it, I'm going to lose it big time, And I'm just talking about emotion here, just trying to keep a lid on it, and the fear of that. And so I go up there. And I was terrified. My legs were shaking before I got up there. And I'm a lapsed Catholic. I don't go to church or anything, but I was raised a Catholic. And I do remember stood there, and I was looking at that cross. Ridiculous. And I was just, please let me do it. Please let me do it. And I'm really not. I'm not about to say, and God answered my prayer. It's nothing like that. It is just purely, I just surrendered myself, to the whole thing. And I just got up there. And once I was up there, it was just, what was I afraid of? And I just felt like it was one of the greatest moments of my life. I've never spoken to any of my family about this. So if any of them see this, they'll be going, oh, because I never mentioned it after. I've never, ever talked about it. But I was more terrified at that time than ever, and so I get the feeling that there's this kind of, dare I say, to use like a sacred secretion analogy, it's like getting to the land of milk and honey, but you've got to go through that appalling terror, to get there. And I do think, that saying, fortune favors the brave, and it was one of those. If I was on my deathbed now and they said, "Well, what were some of the high points?" I would say, "Well, actually, it was that day in the church was one of those moments where I realized that, oh God, yeah, oh, there's definitely more to this life. There's more to this realm, and that you can overcome it. Anyone who's out there now who's frightened of something or fearful of something, don't be, because that is a total imposter."
Yeah. I basically, I used to get stage fright, and sometimes you always get nervous, but I've done an NLP course with Richard Bandler. It's all about making things smaller and putting them further away and make pictures in our mind. And if they're right there and they're big, it's like, but you can kind of learn to push them further away and make yourself bigger and put a bubble all around you and all these different techniques.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right. And, But I still get it now, especially when I haven't worked for a while. Like now, I haven't. I haven't done any. I haven't done a gig in 2 years. So I'll have it where I've got something to do coming up, and I won't sleep, and I'll just be constantly thinking about it. And I can remember watching an interview with. I think it was Larry David when he did that thing with Ricky Gervais a couple of years ago.
Right.
And he was saying that, he said, as soon as I put something in the diary, and it could be in a year's time, he said, that's it. He said, I don't fucking sleep for the rest of that goddamn year. You just think, why do we do this to ourselves?
Exactly.
So, and I always get to that point where I think, what the fuck am I doing this for? But again, it's because that what's beyond that forest of terror, is the land of the milk and the honey, if you like, where that's you to get there, you got to go through this shit,
This is true. Just when you're talking there, I went to see the Incredible String Band. It was like the day before the holiday of the millennium.
Yeah, oh, that's my phone going and I'm just going to decline that. I've no idea what that was yet. Sorry, Billy, you were saying?
Well, anyway, I went to see Billy Connolly. He was playing in a cathedral in Edinburgh. Oh, sorry, I went to see Incredible String Band, but he had Bert Jansch and Billy Connolly supporting him. So Billy Connolly
Wow.
had a 10-minute set because he was a big fan of Incredible String Band. This was like the day before the Hogmanay of the Millennium, so the 30th. December
Wow.
30th. And there's a big, huge cross above his head with Jesus on it. He says, "Fucking hell, I played some toilets in my time, and hope we go doing better than the last guy that played here."
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, Billy Connolly was fantastic, and I hope he's having some having as good a life as he can, because he bloody well deserves it,
He does face up to his illness quite bravely. He still puts himself out there, and he's dealing with it, I think, in quite an admirable way. But
yeah,
what else can you do, kind of thing?
Well, yeah,
he was being an icon, and he really, I don't know if it gets mentioned enough. He kind of transformed stand-up comedy and really revolutionised it to being able to just talk stories. It initially started with just banter in between songs, and then it kind of grew out of that. So it was this kind of one natural, organic thing that happened. But he was certainly the boundaries at the time and took a lot of flack from religious people and stuff when he was doing the fiction bit.
Oh God, yeah. Well, there was there was Billy doing it that way, and then there was Dave Allen, who I thought was great, during that late '60s, early '70s period,
It's also Jasper Parrott as well was another one back then. He doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, that's right. But again, it's coming through that folk thing, isn't it? The troubadour thing where they'll tell a story and then they'll play a song. And Billy came out of that, didn't he? Billy Connolly came out of that thing, that whole area, And then I think
it's just Jerry Rafferty and the Humble Bums, and basically the patter in between started getting longer than the songs. So
exactly. Yeah, that's right. I wonder what Jerry Rafferty felt like, because Jerry Rafferty was this incredible songwriter. He must have thought, I'm getting pissed off with this, But of course, it worked out fantastically for the both of them in the end. I know for them both to go their separate ways,
Yeah. So shall we get you playing a couple of songs then?
Yeah, sure. So I've just got a couple of things, but I'm just going to make sure. So let me think. What can I do? Maybe I'll do a song about terrorists for you. How does that grab you?
What's the history of this song? Is it on an album, or is it when you're?
Well, it's an album I did back. I'm just tuning up. It's an album I did about 10 years ago, and it was called The Taft Trail Troubadour. Okay. And basically, I kind of came up with this mythical kind of figure. There's a Taft Trail in Wales, which runs from Brecon down into Cardiff Bay, 50 mile. And I just thought, hey, this character that only comes to life when the world is in a state of chaos, and in the state of chaos that it currently is, still is 10 years later. So what it was, it's like a whole album of protest songs.
Right.
And I remember playing it to my brother at the time, and he gave me that look, and he's he's got seriously hard tastes in music and comedy, but he kind of gave me that look of, are you sure about this? late one night, I was playing it to him while his kids were in bed. He said, I like it, John, but are you sure? So I did a whole album of it, and unfortunately, it was. It was just a download thing because I didn't have the budget to release it as a physical thing, but I'm going to. I'm going to put it out as a CD. So let me just get this cap on. One sec, just.
My friend Noel here has made a comment about when we're talking about Britpop. He says mediocre, mainstream, conformist rock, no anarchy or real expression. Basically, so this is the opposite of that.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's. I guess that's what government's like. You know. These are new strings. I'm sure you're familiar with the. This guitar knows that I've been looking at new guitars in the last couple of weeks, so it's decided to give me a bit of aggro. All right, come on, behave yourself. Okay.
I was just going to ask, what do you think of John Lennon? You know, basically the song "Imagine" is like a communist manifesto dressed up as, you know, peace and love, and he was.
Yeah, well, again, a lot of the, I guess, the true meaning was lost on us, you know, because we were all busy just going, oh yeah. I mean, it was a naive tune, and the whole, you know, that kind of nice little naive piano thing. We all really liked it. I wasn't ever a massive fan of John Lennon, you know, his solo stuff anyway, but you know, everyone heard the Beatles from, you know, my generation, but yeah, I can see that it's kind of a, you know, imagine no borders and all that stuff. I mean,
no possessions.
No possessions. Yeah, you own nothing. You may as well have said you own nothing and you'll be happy, you know. But anyway, I think I'm going to take these off while I do this because so I can hear my.
You can see his head.
Okay, so actually, I might put them back on. Okay, so this is called Terrorist Cruise.
Okay, I'll bring you full screen.
Okay.
Oh, it's better. You can only see the top of your head. I don't know if you can move the camera a bit.
Yeah, okay, wait a minute. Can I do this?
If you just make it more, because if you can put your head closer to the top of the screen.
Oh, wait a minute. How's that?
That's better, yeah.
Maybe I can get a cushion to sit on. This is all going to be making up as you go.
Just your head, see?
Yeah, they're not missing anything.
Let me go there.
Okay?
Cool.
Okay. Terrorist groups are everywhere. Don't know what the hell to do. Last week I even heard of ISIS. This week they're playing the O2. Terrorist groups are everywhere. Hiding out in every town. Taking all those nasty videos where the pictures never match the sound. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the scariest terrorist of them all? I need some troops to give me some protection from Justin Bieber and One Direction. I know I gotta update that lyric. Terrorist groups are everywhere, screaming out on my TV. They make Al-Qaeda look like pussies. They'll kill you every place, making offers non-refused. We're all being held to ransom by Mickey Mouse and new tattoos. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the baddest terrorist of them all? I'd rather die, you little coronavirus, than be beheaded by that Miley Cyrus. Whoa. Terrorist groups are everywhere. Boko Haram, Al Shabaab, all of them manufactured straight out of some government lab. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the terriblest terrorist of them all? I'm praying for some social commentary from Lady Gaga and that Katy Perry. Whoa. Can't believe it now.
Cool stuff. This back in the day when ISIS were taking over from Al Qaeda as the fucking...
Well, it is, yeah. It's when, you know, obviously that's old hat now. I realise this, they're kind of like, yeah, I don't even know if they're still together.
People can still go back in time and envisage it. You know, you don't need to update it. It's still quite relevant. You know what I mean?
Indeed, yeah, yeah. I think so.
About, almost like Lady Gaga and that, their terrorism as well. Is that what you kind of alluded to?
I guess I'm just, you know, conflating, you know, the idea of what terrorists are, really, I guess. Yeah, you know, there's different ways of strangling a cat, I guess. Different ways of blowing up a cat.
Have you heard the rumor, or some people think that Amy Whitehouse became Lady Gaga? Have you heard that one?
No. My
There's
God.
a guy called, I think it's Tyler Hansen or something like that. He does all these videos that he thinks Elvis became Donald Trump and things like this. He does a picture match like that. So anyway, one of his ones is Amy Whitehouse become Lady Gaga. Again, it's one of these ones when you see the overlap and the symmetry between their faces.
Wow.
It's quite bizarre to say it. Even Elvis and Trump, you wouldn't, because there's lots of videos where Trump, you know, the Don, and he calls himself a lot. He says in quite a lot. A lot of people think I'm Elvis and all this. You know, he actually talks about it. It's quite bizarre.
Really?
it's quite bizarre.
What Trump does?
Trump, he shows when he does these facial matches, and he says my smoking gun, and he goes to a couple of pimples on Elvis, and then he shows the same marks on Trump, and then basically he's got these clips of Trump referring to him, or other people or newscasters referring to Trump as Elvis. It is honestly quite bizarre. And there's another one as well. He's talking about Morgan Freeman and Jimi Hendrix. That's one that's...
Oh, yeah. Well, oh, God, yeah. Well, that screenplay that I mentioned that I'd worked on back in, I'm trying to think, about 15 years ago, and which I'm just now finishing as a book, actually, as a novel. But that whole script was, it involved Jimi Hendrix coming back to save this musician's life.
Right.
After the musician had anyway taken an overdose. But in the movie version, that was the whole thing, that we were going to try and get Morgan Freeman to play Jimi Hendrix.
All right.
So
the narrative of the book.
Yeah. So it's only recently that I came across a few people saying, "Hey, has anyone noticed that Morgan Freeman looks like Jimi Hendrix might have looked had he lived?" And I went, "Yeah, like 15 years ago I noticed that, and it was in a script, you know."
There's an actual video of Morgan Freeman on a chat show on stage in front of an audience. There's like 4 guests. I think Michael Caine might have been one there as well. And actually says, yeah, I was wearing this back in the day. I had all these freaky clothes on, and I had this bandana on. And then
Really?
somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, are you Jimi Hendrix?" or something like that. It's just, you know how they speak in such a way, they tell you something without telling you directly.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it was like, it was revealing it then. You know what I mean? But what gets
Yeah.
me is, if you look at Hendrix, right, why would you give up that kind of talent? You know, why not pursue that? Because he was like kind of light years ahead of things. Christ was going to be in the guitar by now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I know it would be an incredible. I love the idea that Hendrix became Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman really does have something about him. If it was proven, you know, actually he is Hendrix, I go, yeah, I can see that, because Morgan Freeman is kind of the guy that Hendrix might have become anyway. You know, that kind of elder statesman kind of figure. That still, doesn't he have a club, a blues club in Memphis? I think Morgan Freeman. So he's really into music as well, which was the other thing that made me think, damn, you know, we got to get this film made, which of course never was, and get Morgan Freeman to. But as you know, it costs an absolute fortune to get these people involved in your projects. You know, so
You had the Hollywood producer, and then he lost his job.
it was a guy that worked for Paramount, and he was all over it, and he was he loved the script, and you know I honed it down because it was 40 pages too long, which is ridiculous for a script to be that much too long. So yeah, it was all there, but it was just he lost his job, and so in the end the movie idea went, and so in the end I actually adapted it. I took the script and I adapted it into a 6-part TV series. And so I thought, well, because I knew the story was good, and I had it in my head that Morgan Freeman's going to be in it, but anyway, I couldn't get anyone interested. There was a Welsh production company, and a new Welsh production company, and I sent it to them. I said, "Hey, you know, this is a TV series idea, and it's about a Welsh musician." I thought this is going to be great, you know, a new production company. They'll jump all over this, but I didn't even get an email back. So you know, it just makes you wonder sometimes what the hell it's all about. You know, it's the film business is worse than the music business, really, because you can't do anything without the money. At least you can make an album in your living room, like I do here as a musician. But and I guess you could make a movie as well if you wanted to. You make it kind of fairly avant-garde.
I went to see him. There's a movie called Tummy Monster. It was playing in my local cinema.
Right.
And basically, the director was there, and he made this movie for about 100 grand. But it looks as good as a Hollywood movie. But that's about as cheap as you can make it. It was a really good movie. It took him 5 days to make it. But again, 100 grand in movie making terms is cheap, but still a lot of money to raise. You know what I mean?
100 grand is terrifying, isn't it? You know, if you where would you go for that money? Because the thing, that latest CD that I've done, vaudeville. I mean, the idea was to, and possibly still is to put together some kind of show, to do the whole thing as it is, from start to finish. But really, you need funding for that, to put it together as like get some visuals and. So it's not just a rock band on stage playing it, because there's.
So they went to see the Waterboys. Was going to think they've got a new album out, The Life of Dennis Hopper, and in the middle part of the gig, they says we're not playing a full album, but we'll give you a trajectory of the songs, a story arc. So they played 8, 9 songs from the album, but they had a movie playing behind them, which really complemented each individual song. And it was really well done. It was quite a good concept. So I don't know if you're thinking something like that, but
yeah, that could be good. Yeah, and again, that's another possibility of just using. I mean, like Floyd did, and I realised that they spent a fortune on this stuff, Pink Floyd. But just the idea, like you say, of just having like a screen with some visuals, and just to make it a little more interesting for people. And the spoken word things that I've got on it, maybe get someone else to act like a narrator, and you could just do the spoken word parts, But yeah, sure. So what about I'll do Billy No Mates. Okay. And I should point out to everyone, this is not about Billy Watson. This is about.
Although it could be.
Actually, it could have been called Johnny No Mates, to be honest with you. But,
it's about me.
But it's about Bill. It's about Bill Gates, really. And again, it's just one of those things where he was in our faces for so long, every damn day, waving his hands about and. With a lot of glee, talking about how many vaccines he's got planned for everybody, and I don't have to explain it. It got to me, and I didn't want to do anything really angry, just saying, he's a piece of shit or whatever, but just to hit him with satire, which. They don't have a sense of humor. I don't think these people have a sense of humor at all. So that's where I think we need to. This is where we could win big time. Is to hit them with humor, which of course is why another reason why they're trying to. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, so it's almost like it's gonna go back to Chaucer, almost. And maybe, satire is a little bit more, you're kind of cloaking it a little bit more in what you're trying to say. Anyway, this is Billy No Mates.
I will say a couple of things. As far as comedy goes, on the internet these days, if folk want to check out Andrew Lawrence and Intel Lady, to me, those two are doing some great videos, satire videos. And
Andrew Lawrence is, he does. I haven't seen the other person, but Andrew Lawrence is incredibly good. Really articulate guy.
And he takes a pure piss. He pretends to be the police and stuff, and he just gives a twist on the news. Exactly what we're talking about. Just taking a piss out of it, and he's been cancelled a lot in comedy as well. In fact. He did it wasn't you. It was a conspiracy music guru I was talking to. I don't know if you've heard this one. So after the Liverpool debacle that happened recently, he did a tweet where he says, to be fair, if I was in Liverpool, I'd drive through crowds of people to get out of the So this comedy club in Liverpool lost their mind over this shit, and all these comments come on like, he should be barred, it's no funny. And then they put a public post out saying, we do not support this type of comedy. And then the Store Comedy Club in London, they came out and says, we're not booking them. So there's these big comedy clubs saying, we don't like this kind of comedy. It's fucking not appropriate. we're not supporting it, and any comedian who does a gig with Andrew Lawrence is supporting this fucking type of comedy. I mean, I thought it was absolutely fucking disgusting. I mean, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
Andrew Lawrence doubled down on this. He made a video on YouTube where he fucking really went for Scousers, and it was fucking brilliant. Just, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
he
was the
doubled
joke
down,
of
didn't he?
it was good, but just the whole idea of these comedy clubs dictating what type of comedy is funny or not is like, fuck off, you fucking cunts.
Yeah, that's right. And keep doing it as well.
Exactly. And then today, I've seen Bill Gates today in the news as like approaching the EU to talk about his latest vaccine push. So what you're doing is quite relevant. You know, he's still fucking at it. Piece of shit.
He is. It's incredible, and I never tire of mocking him because I swear these people they're a good advert for bullying. I think there's not enough bullying goes on. I was watching a Chris Thrall video earlier. Chris Thrall does some really good stuff, and he. Oh, right. And he was talking about biological Leninism, as in the over-promotion of these kind of, like Bill Gates, the Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, these kind of soy types that, there was a sick note at school, they never got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever. And anyway, Chris used this term biological Leninism, which is it's a clever way of saying that they've just over promoted these people, and they can't believe their luck, can they? They just, I guess that's why they don't know how to stop, And Keir Starmer actually, I don't know whether you ever seen that film of him punching a bag. It's almost like the extension of where they take their jacket off in the summer, roll their sleeves up, the politicians. Yeah, I'm one of the lads. Anyway, they show him punching a bag in the gym. And whoever told him to do that was a terrible mistake. And I just think, because obviously he will be found out. And he certainly was then. In the circles he mixes in, of course, they're all the damn same. They're all the over-promoted. But going in a gym and punching a bag, I don't think that's just...
No. He openly said that he'd support Davos above the UK. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, not at all. No, exactly. And I guess they think that we haven't noticed. It must be that. It must be.
People like Boris, he was a buffoon, and then all of a sudden he's prime minister. Then fucking Rishi Sunak comes. It doesn't matter. It's just a conveyor belt. They're just holding the place until the next puppet comes in, and then they get talked about. It's really, they're fucking irrelevant. They're just serving the needs of them above them, and they'll take the flack in the meantime. And then they'll just move on. And Matt Hancock, he should be fucking rotting in a prison cell or whatever. But he's coming on laughing at people taking the jab at one point. Again, they're not hiding it. They're just
no. And I think it is that they obviously that I think they know that we know, but they're just, it's a race, isn't it? It's a race against, before there's enough of us to maybe mobilize, and I don't know what. But certainly enough of us, a critical mass of the people to be aware of what's going on, spiritually and otherwise. And they're trying to get us nailed down in this digital prison before that happens. And that seems to be the big race, And,
I think age is coming, and it's like going to be a split, and like there'll be those that make it and those that have to do another circle again, kind of thing, and they're trying to lock it the ones down with fear and the digital AI control. It's like AI is trying to control people and get into them before this event happens. I think it's on the horizon, kind of thing.
Well, as I was saying to my other half last night, this is all leading somewhere. Yeah. All this you know, the stuff happening in the Middle East and all of it. It's heading for something. This is not going away now, and I feel like David Icke brilliantly said during 2020. He said the elites. I know, but they're not elite. But you know how people referring to them. The elites are in a vulnerable position because they've entered the room. And I think that was a brilliant way of describing the situation, that they had entered the room and said, yeah, here we are, where all those books that you read, you know, all those kind of esoteric books that I read back in the, you know, during the 80s onwards, really, where they talked about the Illuminati and all this stuff. And you just thought, does this really exist, you know? And then it doesn't matter what they're bloody called. They're the guys that fix things. That's all they are, you know. Call them what you bloody want, you know. Black nobility, the dumper-la-plotted, tinder-la-gloppy dimples. It doesn't matter. They're the guys who fucking nail everything for their own benefit. That's all they are, you know. People find them, and the guy in the pub will say, yeah, oh yeah, I believe in that. I just don't believe in the Illuminati. And you go, fucking hell. All right, so this is Billy No Mates, and yeah, so let's see if I can remember some of the words. I'm actually such a liar. I've got some words written here, but I shouldn't have. Honest to the end of my toes. There was a boy called Willie, who was no friend to any. While the kids were laughing, they while the hours and days away. And if he tried to join their games, the dudes would call him silly names. Billy No Mates, they would say, hey, Billy No Mates, walk away. Well, much as Billy tried to blend, poor Billy could not find a friend. Cause like the kids were all aware of something nasty lurking there. Billy No Mates, Billy No Mates, they would say, Billy No Mates, Billy No Mates, walk away. And every night in his room, William would pray, Lord of the darkness, love my food, to make those bitches pay someday. Was a boy called, vowed to steal away the sun. While the kids all wondered why he built a platform in the sky that rose up higher than a crow, while voices echoed from below. Billy No Mates, they would say, he's trying to steal the sun. Well, the years flew by the platform room, Billy rose into the room. Now teenage voices taunted Billy, just as children used to do. Billy No Mates, Billy No Mates, they would say, Billy No Mates, try and steal the sun away. And then one day, a wealthy stranger stepped off the bus. Saw young Billy working on his platform, on this stuff madness for genius. What a fuss! 50 years and counting later, Willie on this filthy rich. And to all the girls who shunned him, Billy is a somehow bitch.
Billy Nomads, Billy Nomads had a camp. Billy Nomads, waters got the Atlantis wash away. I guess today Billy feels like three Atlantis on two humans in the way. Merchants shopping the horizon, telling wants to pet the best. Father, Messiah, sanctify your private jets. Billy Nomads, Billy Nomads had a camp. Billy Nomads. Billy Nomads, your man. Billy Nomads, have a plan. Billy Nomads, Billy Nomads, your man. Billy Nomads, Billy Nomads, Billy Nomads, Billy There was a boy called Leon who tried to steal away the sun.
Absolutely fantastic.
Forgot to take these off.
It's been fantastic stuff there, man. Awesome.
Thank you.
Can't believe you've not done a gig in 2 years.
Yeah. Maybe I've been saving it up.
I think you need to get in touch with some of these groups, these freedom gigs that they do, whatever, and rock up at one of them one day. Like, for instance, if you're at anti-geoengineering, that would have went down really well,
Yeah, well, it did cross my mind, but do you know what? I'm not good at self-promotion, but also I didn't want to seem like I was kind of trying to hitch a ride, if you know what I mean. So I did go there, but I didn't speak to anybody. I just wanted to go just to see how many people were there, and I was really happy that there were as many as there were. But what I was thinking of doing was dropping Matt Landman a line just to say, hey, Matt, if any kind of future stuff, please drop me a line,
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of any others I could put you in touch with. I'll think about that. Again, I'm doing one in Derby. I did reach out to the guy, but he never got back to me. But I know you've got difficulty travelling with you don't have a car.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Having said that, it's not even that I wouldn't travel or that I can't travel. It is purely that, the other week when you got in touch, I would have loved to have done that. It's just that it was just the fact that it was difficult to get to, because I think I had to travel into one town and then maybe get another connection, and it was getting home. That was more like the problem than getting there, You've done gigs, you know what the score is. You get there, and then it's like, oh, geez, what time's it finished? Oh, I got to get home. Wait a minute,
No, I've booked a room. There is a field for camping, but I don't think my girlfriend's too keen on that. So,
well, it depends on the month.
we did go down to Dorset for an event with Rise Above, and it was in April, and fucking hell, it was freezing. It was so bad.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. So was that with the sheep farm guys? Did they do that? Did they do that Rise Above thing?
I'm not sure if they were there. I can't remember them being there. It was a really good event. It was like 2 days, a weekend. It was a couple of years ago in 2023, I think. Yeah, and there's another one called It's Time to Rise that I've done. That was in Derby area as well with, do you know Ant Crinchley? He's got Stellify.
I've seen him. I think he was interviewed by Sonia Poulton, I think.
Aye.
Yeah.
That was quite a good event. Matt Hoy was at that and a few others.
Right.
But yeah, if I hear of anything that I find suitable for you, and I'll try and throw your name into the hat.
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
you need to find that, to type of crowd that's going to appreciate what you do there. I'm sure you could go and do gigs, but whether the crowd would get what you're singing about is another thing.
Well, a lot of what I do, Billy, is about the lyric, and so if they're not going to take to the subject matter, it's going to be a big issue. There's like this disconnect,
But there is
having said that,
the guy who's singing at Phil Zimmerman. He lives in London, so I don't know if you want to reach out to him, but he does gigs occasionally.
that's a good idea.
Just
That's a good idea.
send a link to vaudeville and just say, here's the stuff I do. If you hear of any gigs or whatever, I'm through your name in a hat.
Yeah, I mean, I had some gigs the year before last, and I got ill anyway, and I cancelled the gigs. And then before you know it, 2 years had gone by. I'd written a book instead of doing gigs, and worked on another album. And here I am now. I haven't done a gig since the May before last, and that's a bummer. But anyway, yeah, I'll get on it.
You haven't put the guitar down. Obviously, you're still working on the music and stuff, so it's not like you're completely ring rusty.
No, not at all. I'm working on stuff all the time. This thing I'm doing now is it's one big continuous, two sides of music. I'm going to do a vinyl album, and 2 sides, and it's completely like maybe 25 minutes of continuous music either side. And really, it was just after writing songs for so long, you just think, I'd like to do something a little different, and I'd done the spoken word kind of angle where I intersperse some spoken word in between songs, and then I thought, what about if there was just no songs as such, So they're basically it's an album really of choruses. And then one of the lines is the everlasting chorus. And that's really what I just liken life to be, like an everlasting chorus, and so that's the thing I'm working on now, and I'm going to put that out next year. Yeah,
sounds cool. So I think we'll wrap up there. Is there anything else you would like to tell people about?
Other than vaudeville, and I'm going to be releasing some of the stuff that I did on as downloads, because I think it was 3 albums on download. The Taft Trail Troubadour that I mentioned earlier, Metamorph, which I released during lockdown. I released it during lockdown of all times, and that was a double album, 20 tracks, and that just went into the digital void and was never seen or heard from again. So I'm going to do a physical release of that, and there's another one as well called Don't Try This at Home, and that was that was a download. So there's 3 albums I'm going to put out as CD releases, and I got another book coming in December, which is going to be the novel version of that screenplay that I was talking about, where so maybe I can get Morgan Freeman to appear no, I can't get him to appear in the book. It doesn't work like that, does it? Oh, well, never mind. But that's coming in December anyway. That's called Rock Heaven.
Right. Well, look forward to every release you do. Keep me tuned in on what's happening, and we'll certainly be happy to get you back on to discuss each project as they come out.
Thanks, Billy. I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed doing this again.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to reading this. As I say, I'll take this on holiday and read this on the beach. What's this one about? Would you like to give a wee synopsis about the book you've got out?
Well, first, I wrote a memoir, so-called, like a rock memoir, as they call it. And that was just about, like my upbringing and the bands that I'd been in. But that got a little bit boring for me, the first book, just talking purely about myself. So I started interspersing it with some, what they would call conspiracy sort of stuff. And then when I got about 3/4 of the book through, I thought, well, wait a minute. What if the powers that be got wind that I was writing this book? and that they were all classic rock fans, specifically Uriah Heep fans. And MI5 hated the fact that I was in Uriah Heep and I destroyed the whole band. And so what about that on my tail, And they put this guy called Claude, who's this hired killer, to come and kill me, basically, because of what I did to Uriah Heep. And so that was the first book. I survived the attempt on my life in the first book, which was well, here I am. And so then in the second book, Contra Damus, begins, where I'm sat in my kitchen on the tiny little island of Flatholm, which is a couple of miles off Cardiff Bay, because I've purchased that from all my royalties that came from all my back royalties I was paid. This is all complete fabrication. But anyway, and I get something in my eye. I make cooking with chili. I get the capsaicin in my eye. I have to row my boat over to the mainland to get some eye drops. And I put the eye drops in my eye. And I go and sit back down on my computer to start writing the notes for this follow-up book, which Contra Damus became. And next thing you know, my front door is kicked in, and the room is filled with these guys with LP on their helmets, and this stands for literary police. And next thing you know, I'm taken across the Cardiff Bay to the courtroom up in town in Cardiff, and a judge is there, and he has the copy of the first book, and he's flicking through it, with this kind of disapproving look on his face, and he says, "So you really think the world is the way you portray it in this book, because of all the conspiratorial stuff?" And I talk about Agenda 21, 2030, and all that shit, and microchips and what have you. He says, "You really think it's going to be like that?" And I'm there in the dark. "Well, Your Honor, it's just my own humble opinion." So he says, "Well, we're going to see if the world is going to be like this. I sentence you to 5 years in the 23rd century, and off I get sent." Next thing you know, I wake up on the roof of this building, and 22nd century, I beg your pardon, and that's where I am. In the book, I'll say no more, but that's where that book then takes off. I'm in the 22nd century, where basically Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, their version of it, which is called the Big Change, all failed. Oh. And it's all failed. And but they don't know it has failed. Only the people at the top know it's failed. And so the police walk around shouting "bang." They've got muskets, and when they fire the guns at people, they go bang, and people fall over dead because they believe the police have bullets to kill them. But it's just a mind game. So it's a satire, and I loved doing it, but I only started doing it really because vaudeville was constantly delayed by the label I was involved with briefly. So as I put at the front of the book, never delay the album of a writer, of a musician with pretensions of being a writer.
Sometimes things happen for a reason, and
indeed, yeah. That's right, and the older that I've got, the more I start to realize it. It doesn't stop you from getting pissed off, obviously, when this stuff happens to you and you get held up. But thinking deeper on it, as you say, you are right. Sometimes it's an every cloud scenario.
Yeah, we have got to do that, haven't we? We're talking to stay pushing forward and being creative and doing what you need to do.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Cool, man. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. If you hang
and you.
Goodbye to you after this.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank everyone else for watching. We appreciate that. And I've not got any other interviews lined up because I've been busy working on finishing my own books, which it's a big project and it's almost finished. So once that's done, we'll get some more guests lined up. In the meantime, thanks for watching and we'll see you soon. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.